Hi, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Is it possible to stretch your stomach following bariatric surgery? And while this may be a somewhat controversial position, I think it is possible to at least expand your stomach's capacity. Right after surgery, you're really limited. They're cutting out 80% or so of your stomach. It's still sensitive and it's still kind of tight for at least the first year or two. After that, though, you can utilize a lot of the techniques of competitive eaters in order to expand your stomach's capacity. The more big meals you have, the more likely it is that you're going to slowly but surely stretch your stomach. So you need to watch what you eat, be careful about drinking water. It's basically the same rules that you had the first few months after bariatric surgery that many of us follow pretty meticulously because we just don't want to have a stomach rupture. But we often get lax as we move along. But take a look at what competitive eaters do in order to expand their stomachs, and don't do that, and you might be ahead of the game. I found it fascinating when I was preparing for this video. I started looking at, okay, what does Chetney and all these other competitive eaters do before Nathan's hot dog eating contest? And I just was kind of blown away that it sounded a lot like the advice you would get from a dietitian. They eat lots of lettuce and a lot of low-calorie, high-bulk food. They drink lots of diet soda and water, trying to keep their stomach expanded, and slowly but surely the stomach's capacity grows. And when they're eating, they don't chew. They just gulp. And when you start gulping your food without chewing, you can bypass some of the hunger signals and you can cram in more food. So those are a couple of good rules not to follow if you want to keep your stomach small. Now, if you feel like you have stretched your sleeve and you've expanded your stomach, what can you do about it? Well, there's a couple of different techniques. One of them I do is every now and then I'll just take a couple of days and not eat. Two-day fast is pretty safe. It shrinks the stomach kind of naturally because you're not putting anything in it for a couple of days. And I get reacquainted with my hunger signals. One of the things that people don't realize that when you get 80% of your stomach cut out, you are losing a hunger signaling hormone called ghrelin. And for about 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, ghrelin production is real low, which means you don't get hunger signals. And if you're not getting hunger signals, you can go sometimes a day without eating and not even realize it because you're just not hungry. But after about 18 months to 2 years, the intestine starts to make up for that deficit and you start getting the hunger signals back, which probably explains why so many people about 2 years after surgery start to regain 15 to 25% of the weight that they were post-surgery, because they're now getting hunger signals and they probably haven't changed their diet that much. Another way of possibly shrinking your stomach is to go back to the diet that you did right after post-surgery. 1 week of clear liquids, another week of soup, another week of soft foods, and another week of, again, more food, but more cut up, and working to eat slowly like you did following surgery, and that will help shrink up your stomach a little bit. There's also the possibility of having a bariatric reset, which is where they'll go in and do the bariatric surgery all over again and give you another chance. These are all possibilities, but frankly, I think you're better off just changing your diet to more of a low-carb diet. See, when I had bariatric surgery, I remember studying very intently a lot of the blogs and YouTube videos from people that had had the surgery, some successful, but I really was looking for people who were not successful and trying to figure out what they did wrong and why they were not successful. And nearly all of them had gone back to eating junk food. They were eating ice cream, potato chips, and complaining that the sleeve that was supposed to be their savior didn't change anything. Look, bariatric surgery is not a magic wand. It's a tool. It can be a very powerful tool. But I don't think that's the be-all and end-all. And frankly, if I had to do over again, I wouldn't have had bariatric surgery. I would have switched to a low-carb ketogenic diet. because one of the things I noticed post-surgery is for 2 years, the markers of metabolic syndrome had slowed down and they weren't quite as bad, but they weren't gone. I still had a waist that was over the limit. My triglycerides were high, my blood pressure was still high, my HDL was still low, and my blood glucose was still low, or high, excuse me, at that time. I had almost all the markers of being a pre-diabetic, if not a full-scale type 2 diabetic. It wasn't until I discovered the keto way of eating that I was able to start making real changes. And it was amazing. You know, as soon as I switched to keto, I had lost another 20 or so pounds, and my waist shrank down quite a bit, about 2 inches. And I was getting healthier. My blood pressure was down. It wasn't great yet. Blood glucose was still a little bit high, but you know, I was working on it. And I saw some real fantastic changes and was able to get off some of my medications. What was interesting is the allergy meds. I no longer had to take 3 allergy meds every single day just by going keto. But where things really started to change was about 3 years ago. I had discovered Carnivore. I thought that the science was interesting. There were people that I respected that were doing it and having great success with it. And during COVID, I decided, okay, I'm going to try it. And I was going to give myself 6 weeks on it. Turned out to be fantastic. I mean, I lost an additional 10 pounds, lost 2 more inches off my waist, and got more muscle. And I've been doing it ever since. And since then, I've gotten rid of all my medications. My blood pressure is finally normal for the first time in my adult life. All my blood markers are just flat out perfect, right where you want to be. And for a guy that's, you know, only gotten older, I'm now 60, and the fact that I'm now probably healthier than I was in my 30s, to me is fantastic. And that's why I like the carnivore style of eating. It's not only delicious, but it's extremely easy, and it just keeps showing more and more health improvements every year that I do it. So I strongly suggest that, frankly, before you have bariatric surgery, you try eating keto or preferably carnivore and see if you don't lose the weight better with that than you would by having the bariatric surgery. And if you've had bariatric surgery and you're starting to realize that you're gaining weight again, go ahead and start trying the keto carnivore way of eating. I did it after the surgery and have had fantastic results. And I think you'll notice that, like most of us, that you're going to reduce all your pre-type 2 diabetes. You may be an insulin-dependent type 2 diabetic right now that's had bariatric surgery and still needs the insulin. And you may find that you may not after going low carb or carnivore. So give it a shot. We have videos on how to do it, the different types of diets. We try to cover a bunch of different subjects on this channel. Keto, carnivore lifestyle, bariatric surgery, the pros and the cons and how to do it, and how to maximize your efforts in that area, and how to get out of the healthcare system and save money. These are all topics that we cover, and if you like these subjects, please hit the like, subscribe button, join our tribe. Put down any comments below that, you know, from your experiences, what works, what doesn't for you. This is how we learn from each other. I try to put out a video every single weekday. I will talk to you tomorrow.